Hello beautiful people, my name is Kristen. Thank you for taking time to stop by my channel for a book related video. I did some shopping from a couple websites that I really love. They both support literary programs and reading programs around the country. They save books from the landfill. The Better World books you can actually donate and get a tax write-off, and then they resell it. Generally speaking, there's free shipping. It's just a low cost. There's some books that are closer to newer release that end up being just about 10% off, but for the most part, most of the books are less than half the retail price. And I got, between Thrift Books and Better World, I got 18 books for less than $120. So I did have probably 25-ish books that were still on my stack of to be reading, but I love when I have a stack of books all the way to the ceiling and I can go through those. Generally, I read about 50 to 60 books a year, so it takes me quite a while to get through that stack. But when books average, no more than $7 a book, I feel that's a big win, because it takes me probably 2 to 6 hours to read most books, and some of those big thick books even longer than that. So that's a pretty good value entertainment wise. A lot of them I keep, a lot of them I will donate or pass on to somebody else that I think would really love them. So out of my 18 books, I got 3 classics, 3 non-fiction, and then the rest are just fiction base, so I thought I would share them with you. So I will hold each one up. You can scroll along to the ones you're interested in. What I really would like to know, if you would be so kind, is in the comments if there's one that either you've read and love, or one that sounds interesting and you'd like to hear more about. If you put in the comments this one, I will totally take that into consideration and bump it up on my stack and try to read those sooner rather than later to give you a more detailed review or opinion of them. So most all of these I did have on my wish list. I keep an Amazon wish list, so most of them are that. So without further ado, the first one is The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy. I really love some of his books and I really dislike some of his books. So this is going to be an interesting. This one says, Plain Marty South, a young country girl, mature beyond her years, endures her love for Gil's Winterbourne in silence. He works in partnership with George Melbury, the local timber merchant and chief man of business. But Giles has a deep unspoken feelings for Mr. Melbury's daughter Grace, who's been away at boarding school and now returns to Little Hintock, an educated young woman with modern ideas. Giles belongs to the past that she no longer wants to be part of, and she's soon attracted to a new handsome young doctor, Edred Fitzpeer, and they follow their lonely courses. Their lives become intertwined. So, the classic romance. I'm down with that. We're going to give it a go. Hopefully that's a Thomas Hardy that I love. And I love and adore everything I've read by Wilkie Collins. And this one is one of his older ones, No Name. So I'm really excited to read this one. He says that it's illegitimacy of the woman in question of no names. It compels different order of suspense. For its family secrets, the Vanstone daughters, their consequent disinheritance and fall from social grace is revealed early. And Magdalene Vanstone struggles to reclaim her identity. The plot uncovers many moral, social, and legal skeletons of Victorian society. So there's a lot about that in the classics, right? This kind of angsty appearances and Pride and Prejudice and all that kind of stuff, right? But I enjoy that. Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. I have been wanting to read this one for a long time. Been on the classics. It chronicles the crack-up of Esther Greenwood, brilliant, beautiful, enormously talented and successful, but slowly going under, maybe for the last time. Sylvia Plath masterfully draws the reader into Esther's breakdown with such intensity that Esther's insanity becomes completely real and even rational. Sounds like a good kind of psychological, twisty one, like what's reality and what's not. Then my 3 nonfiction, I got Charles Fishman's The Big Thirst. I really love The Big Short, talking about the housing crisis. And this one talks about the water problems. It talks about Michigan and some of those issues, but just in general, how our water systems are older and falling apart and mismanaged, and that's a health crisis and issue. And this author believes that that's the next big crisis in America after the big housing crisis. So I thought that's interesting. It's hard to stockpile water, y'all. It's heavy and it's bulky and it takes up space and it goes quickly. So I look forward to reading what that says about it. This one is a memoir type book, The Diary of a Bookseller by Sean Blethell. He is a bookshop owner. He lives and works in the bookshop Wigtown, whose crooked shelves contain anything from a 16th century Bible to the first edition Agatha Christie. Is it a book lover's paradise? Almost. His wirily hilarious diaries reveals the highs and lows of life in the book trade as he contends with eccentric customers, bin foraging employees, and a perennial empty till. Along the way, he's going to take you on buying trips of old estates, the auction houses, and lost classics. So that's exciting. I don't know. You know I love books. I wouldn't be sitting here doing this video if I didn't love books. So you know I love that. And then the other nonfiction is For Fish, and this is The Future of the Last Wild Food by Paul Greenberg. And it basically chronicles the 4 most common fish that we eat: salmon, sea bass, cod, and tuna. And it's a nonfiction that talks about the state of where they come from, what's going on with that, with all the breakdown of the environment, all those kind of issues. And I love fish, and I thought that sounded interesting. So on to the fiction. I picked up a copy of She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb, and this is a story of Doris Price, who's 13. She's wounded and has bid her childhood goodbye. Beached like a whale in front of her bedroom TV, she spends the next years nourishing herself with Mellow Mars, potato chips, and Pepsi from her anxious mother. When she finally rolls into young womanhood at 257 pounds, she is no stronger and life is no kinder. But this time she's determined to rise to the occasion and give herself one more chance before really going belly up. So Michelle Escalin had recommended this book. I put it on my wish list, and then I found it at one of the bargain bins, and I thought, done. I mean, meant to be, right? It's then I've been wanting to read this one for a while. It has been on my list probably much since it came out. The Immortal List by Chloe Benjamin. It says in 1969, which evidently is the year I was born, in New York City, word is spread of the arrival of a mystical woman, a traveling psychic who claims she can tell anyone the day that they are going to die. The Gold Children, 4 adolescents on the cusp of self-awareness, sneak out and hear their fortunes. The prophecies inform them of the next 5 decades. The Immortalist probes the line between destiny and choice, reality and illusion, this world and the next. I love that, right? Oh, that's going to be good. Nora Roberts, I picked up Heart of the Sea. This is the 3rd in a trilogy, and this is one of my favorites. Nora Roberts is kind of a silly, very classic romance trope type of writer, but this is the series where she writes about like leprechauns, and so it's like these fairy leprechaun people, and there's one that talks about the sun and one that talks about the moon, and then this is the 3rd and final one. So I just kind of want to know, I just want to wrap up the series, but I couldn't find it. I found the others at library sales, and this one was missing, and I finally found it. So I don't know who else likes that kind of silliness, but if you do, it's a fun series. It's called the Irish Trilogy, but you have to be careful because she has a ton of Irish-based books. So this is a copy of Eleanor Oliphant. It is completely fine. So you've probably heard a lot about this book already, but it's woman leads a simple life, wears the same clothes, eats the same meals, and finishes off 2 bottles of vodka every weekend. She's happy, nothing missing, except sometimes everything. So another kind of character-driven fun book that's gotten a lot of talk, and I've been wanting to read it, just never found the right copy that was the right price, and now I do. I got an Ellen Hildebrand Winter Stroll. There's 4 in this series. I've never read any of them. I think this is actually the second. There's an Inn on Nantucket, and these are always centered around Christmas. So I picked this up, thought I would hold on to it for the winter season because I've never read that series, but I really, really like her. I picked up a copy of The Woman in the Window, A.J. Finn. This is also very popular, talked about, but I've never read it. It says, Anna Fox lives alone, a recluse in New York City home, unable to venture outside, and spends her days drinking wine, maybe too much, watching old movies, and recalling happier times, and looking out the window at her neighbors. Then the Russells move into the house across the way. Father, mother, teenage son, the perfect family. But when Anna gets gazing out her window one night, she sees something that she shouldn't, and her world begins to crumble, and the shocking secrets are laid bare. Is it for real? Imagined? Who's in danger? Who's in control? In this diabolically gripping, thrilling, no one and nothing is actually what it seems. We'll see. Leanne Marty, I love her. And I didn't really love the last book I read, but I said I'm going to try another one, and here it is, Truly Madly Guilty. This one is Sam and Clementine have a wonderful, albeit busy life. If there's anything they can count on, it's each other. Clementine and Erica are each other's oldest friends, but theirs is a complicated relationship. So when Erica mentions the last-minute invitation to a barbecue with neighbors Tiffany and Vid, Clementine and Sam don't hesitate. Having Tiffany and Vid's larger-than-life personalities, there will be some welcome respite. 2 months later, it won't stop raining, and Clementine and Sam can't stop asking themselves, what if they hadn't have gone? So, I'm not totally sure what that's about, but I like it. Sounds suspenseful, and I look forward to trying that author. I love Big Little Lies. So, The Shadow of the Wind by, who's this one? Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I've been wanting to read this one for quite some time. It says, hidden in the heart of old city of Barcelona, in the cemetery of forgotten books, a labyrinth library of obscure and forgotten titles. To the library, a man brings his 10-year-old son Daniel one cold morning in 1945. Daniel's allowed to choose one book, and from the dusty shelves he pulls The Shadow of the Wind by Julian Currix. But as Daniel grows up, several people seem inordinately interested in his find. What begins as a case of literary curiosity turns into a race to find out the truth behind the life and death of Julian Currix and to save all those that he has left behind. So, sounds mystery, library, books, kind of, what was that movie with Nicolas Cage and you know, I'm talking about the money and looking at the Washington monuments and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of in my mind a little bit what I'm thinking. Diary of a Nobody. This is touted as a comedy. George and Whedon Grossmith. And an unassuming work, unaware that he's produced a masterpiece. It talks about it in generalities, but it's basically suburban life, making fun of it, and just like witty stuff. And I'm not totally sure why I even originally put that on my list, but somebody must have mentioned it and I put it on my list. The Beach Club, this is another Ellen Hildebrand, so I had the winter one, and then here's a summer beach read. Nantucket Island, memories made, friendship began, passions ignite. During an unforgettable summer, the exclusive Nantucket Beach Club and Hotel shapes the fate of men and women who are going through the doors. So it's all about a particular club and the lives and the things that are going on there. Light, easy beach read, right? I also picked up a book, The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This one sounds really good. I'm sure you might have heard it before. In the tightly wound, enthralling study, reminiscent of Agatha Christie work, Lo Blacklock, a journalist who writes for a travel magazine, was given an assignment of a lifetime. Spend a week on a luxury cruise with only a handful of cabins. The sky is clear, water's calm, the veneered, select guests, jovial, exclusive cruise ship, the Aurora, begins her voyage in a picturesque North Sea. At first, Lo's stay is nothing but pleasant, and the cabins are plush, the dinner parties are sparkling, and the guests are elegant. But as the week wears on, frigid winds whip the deck. Gray skies fall. Lo hears what she can only describe as a dark and terrifying nightmare of a woman that has been thrown overboard. The problem? All the passenger and crew seem accounted for. So the ship is sailing on as if nothing's happened, despite Lo's attempts to uncover that something or someone has gone terribly, terribly wrong. So, I like that. It does sound very Agatha Christie, and then there were none kind of trapped on an island, something goes down and the people are there. And then the last thing is just funny story. I was doing one of these checkouts on my phone and I was putting the stuff in and I couldn't click on the top little button to get to the cart to check out. So I said, well, I'll just add another book. And then it'll say added to the cart and it pops up your cart. So I said, I'll just add another book. I can delete it. So I added this little children's book, Waiting is Not Easy. And then when I kind of read the review or whatever and looked at it as a cute little funny book about it's difficult to wait and it's an elephant and a pig, and I just thought, I know I have teenagers, but I like to read my teenagers bedtime stories when we're on camp and we gather in our pajamas and we're about to have our kind of closing devotion for the night. I pull out a children's book and I read them a bedtime story and they love it. So the best ever, of course, was The Wonky Donkey. It's still classic. We have to read that one a lot. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep it. I think it was like $3.99 at most. So I was like, you know what? It's fate. It's just, I randomly put this in my bag and I think it's adorable. So it came from the Sacramento Public Library at some point. So there you go. There's my 18 books for less than $120. Please, I'm just going to enjoy sitting there and looking at them and wanting to read them and deciding which ones I want to read. But please leave me a comment below which ones you think sound interesting and exciting and you want me to read sooner rather than later, because that helps me decide and it's just kind of a fun process. So if you like book calls, give me a thumbs up so I know I should do more of these. I don't know that I've ever done actual book calls here before, but I can start to do that. I do them periodically, especially the library ones, which I think I did a library one, and then I did do a PALS when I went to Oregon because that bookstore is awesome. Thank y'all for stopping by. I appreciate it. Y'all have an awesome day.